Hi guys, Ethan with Ethan Kelly Leather here. I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about pattern making today. I've got a couple guns here I'm going to be making holsters for, so we'll probably run through the Glock here making a pattern. It's got a TLR light attachment on it as well as a modular optic system. I'll try to keep this video a bit shorter and hopefully y'all can pick up a few tips from this. So let's get to it. So what you're going to need to make your pattern is a ruler, your paper, a pen, a strip of leather, that's the thickness of the holster you're making, and of course your firearm. First thing I like to start with is a ruler, and we're going to go ahead and position the gun so that we can set a line roughly where that holster is going to cover the trigger. That's how I like to do it. So we're going to start a line, and that gives us something to go off of. Now from there we're going to figure out, so this is basically going to be the line of our belt as well. It may be a little lower, but we want to go ahead and put a cant on it. That's the way I do mine. You can build them straight up and down however you like. If you're doing a cross draw, you're going to do something more like this. So for now we're doing, what I'm doing is making one of my associates. It's a strong side pancake holster, so we are going to put a bit of a forward cant on it. And from here, once you get it positioned about where you want, we are simply going to trace the gun as accurately as we can. So now that we have the firearm traced out, I'm going to come 3/8 of an inch off of the outline. Now we're going to trace the actual profile of the holster. So how I build holsters is the front, here I'll show you an old pattern. This is the front piece and this is the back piece. The front piece is larger, and the reason being is it creates a pocket for the gun on the outside of the holster. Now most holsters you'll see are created where both pieces are identical. Now while that's easier to make, it doesn't make as nice of a holster because it puts the imprint of the gun equally on the back as the front, and the back comes against you, so it winds up being a lot more comfortable and your break-in is quicker if you put the pocket on the front. This is going to be our stitch line. So on this side of the gun, it's very straight. So we're going to just run a line here. That's where our stitches are going to go. And this one has a slight step. However, if you think about it with this pistol, we've got a light here, and this light is going to have to pass through this portion of the holster as well to be drawn. So so we want actually this stitch line to be straight across. It needs to be even, drawing all the way out. We're going to follow this through the entire way until maybe there where we're going to come in and contour that light a little bit. Now it's up to you just to trace the profile you want. Now what I'm going to do is, since this is for a Glock 2021, which is an equivalent of a Glock 40, which is what this is. It's simply a longer pistol. I want to keep my patterns looking fairly similar, so the holsters come out fairly uniform. I am going to use this old pattern to then translate over onto this new one to keep them a similar look. Now it's up to you really to design how your holster looks. I like to cut them with a round knife. You can cut them with a razor blade or scissors even. I like the round knife. It helps me sort of smooth out, so actually my pattern that I traced on doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. That actually, the knife will help guide through this. So something you'll notice with this pattern is you want to make sure this scoop underneath the grip of the gun is large enough for fingers to fit so you can get a full grip on the gun before drawing. The other thing we're going to have to do is, because I copied this off of a pattern that did not have an optic system on it, we may just have to cut this away a little bit to adjust this pattern to make sure we clear that optic. Our next step is to find out how much bigger the top piece needs to be. Okay, so the edges are going to mimic this one. It's just going to be stretched out in order to fit a bigger pocket on top of this. And so the way we do that is with our piece of leather here. So we need to be careful with the light though as well, because if this distance is smaller than this distance, we're going to be in trouble because this light has to again draw through the holster. So there's going to be a larger gap over this trigger guard to allow the light to pass. So if you don't have a light on your gun, it makes this process way easier. We're going to press it down over where the holster is going to go. So if we swing this around, we need to see how much leather we need, and we're going to go ahead and mark it. So next we take our pattern that we've made, we're going to move it over onto the adjacent piece. Okay, so we are going to trace the one side till we get to the straightaway here, until we get to this scoop here. Now from there we want to mark our stitches, where our stitches come in. Okay, and from there we mark these stitches. Now we can pull this off. Now if we remember, this distance here was on the top of the holster, and then down here was down here at the bottom of the light where it tapers. So we're going to take our measurement and mark that's where this stitch line needs to be moved over to. And then up here, same thing, right there. We were here. We see our stitch lines line up there. Here's our old one. We need to slide this over until we match this up with our new stitch line. Okay, so now that we have that marked out, we just connect this how we like. Now I'm going to go take this pattern, make up that gap for the front. We mesh this up so that it looks right. And that comes in. On the bottom here, we're just going to bring them together. So we might want to translate our stitch lines onto this one. And then my stitch line is going to come out a little ways to accommodate this this tension screw. So the only other thing that's left to do is a reinforcement piece. Go ahead and trace it right on here. And we're going to cut that out of another piece of paper, and I can show you how to do that. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at a window. We're going to place our pattern up here, and if I set this, so we've got a little outline on the back of this paper, but I should be able to follow that outline no problem. So now we have our patterns cut out. Here's the back, front, and our reinforcement piece. And when you cut the leather sections out of this, you can go ahead and trace your stitch lines onto them. The cool part with these is, so now you can make either a right hand or a left hand with these, depending on how you flip them. So like here, If we have it on the back side, you've got a lefty, right? It's going to sit on your left side, strong side, and then of course if we flip it around, there's your right hand holster. So they work for either left or right. Got your reinforcement there, and we're ready to make ourselves a holster.